Hi, I'm Lorelai. The moment that changed, everything happened on a Tuesday evening at what should have been a normal family dinner. My grandmother had passed away 3 weeks earlier, and we were all still processing our grief. At least, that's what I thought we were doing. Could someone pass the potatoes? Uncle Warren asked, his voice soft as always, trying to maintain some normalcy. Here, I said, handing him the ceramic bowl. Grandma would have added more butter. My mother cleared her throat dramatically. Speaking of mother, we need to discuss the situation with her estate. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Is this really the time, Helen? We're just sitting down to eat. It's exactly the time, Mom replied, her voice taking on that razor-sharp edge I'd grown to recognize. The reading of the will is tomorrow, and we should all be prepared for what's coming. Cousin Jessie raised an eyebrow. Prepared for what? Grandma was pretty straightforward about everything. Mom's fingers tightened around her water glass. Well, there might be some surprises. Mother wasn't exactly in her right mind toward the end. That's not true, I said, my voice calm but firm. I visited her every week. She was sharp as ever, right up until the end. Mom's eyes flashed. You always think you know everything, don't you, Lorelai? Just because you spent time with her playing chess and listening to her stories. Is that what this is about? Uncle Warren interrupted, setting his fork down. The fact that Lorelai made time for Mom when the rest of us were too busy? Mom's face flushed. This is about what's fair. I'm her only daughter. I took care of her finances for years. I'm the one who deserves... Deserves what, Mom? I asked, genuinely curious. That's when she said it. The words that would change everything between us forever. The inheritance, obviously. That $24.5 million should be mine. You don't deserve a penny of it. You manipulative little... Helen, Dad interjected. No, let her finish, I said, my heart hammering. Why don't I deserve what Grandma wanted me to have? Mom stood up, her chair screeching against the hardwood floor. Because you turned her against me. All those private conversations, all those little chess games. You were poisoning her against her own daughter. That's ridiculous, I said, standing to face her. I never once... The slap came out of nowhere, her palm connecting with my cheek with such force that I stumbled backward. The dining room fell silent, everyone frozen in shock. Helen, what the hell? Uncle Warren was on his feet instantly. I touched my stinging cheek, meeting my mother's gaze. Well, I said quietly, I guess we know what this is really about. Lorelai, I'm sorry, I didn't mean... Mom started, suddenly realizing what she'd done in front of everyone. Cousin Jessie was already at my side. Come on, let's get some ice for that. In the kitchen, away from the chaos of the dining room, Jessie handed me an ice pack. You know, she said, keeping her voice low, I overheard Mom talking to your mom last week. Something about a new will that Grandma supposedly signed 3 days before she died. Did you know anything about that? I shook my head, the ice pack cold against my skin. That's impossible. I was with Grandma that day. She was barely conscious, let alone signing legal documents. Jessie's eyes widened. Wait, you were there? The whole day? From morning until the night nurse came at 7. Why? Because... Jessie leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Your mom told everyone she visited alone that afternoon, and that Grandma asked for her lawyer to make some final adjustments to her will. I felt my blood run cold. That never happened. The next morning, I sat in Uncle Warren's study, my cheek still faintly bruised. I made some calls, Uncle Warren said, closing the door behind him. The family attorney, Mr. Blackwell, says he never visited Grandma in the hospital. But he did receive a document courier delivered from your mother's address, supposedly containing changes requested by your grandmother. That's impossible, I replied, leaning forward. I was there the whole day she supposedly made these changes. Grandma couldn't even hold a pen. Uncle Warren nodded, his expression grave. I believe you, but here's where it gets complicated. The courier service has a signature, your signature, acknowledging the document pickup. What? I never signed anything? Exactly, Warren said, pulling out his reading glasses. Which is why I had my assistant pull your signature from last year's family trust paperwork. Take a look. He placed two documents side by side. The forgery was obvious, even to my untrained eye. She forged my signature, I whispered, a mixture of shock and anger washing over me. Appears that way, Warren replied. Question is, what do we do about it? A knock at the door interrupted us. Cousin Jessie poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but Mom just called. She's freaking out because Aunt Helen's been calling everyone, telling them you're trying to steal the inheritance. I sighed. Of course she is. What did your mom say? Warren asked. Jessie entered, closing the door behind her. That's the thing. Mom's not buying it. She said Aunt Helen sounded desperate and manic, and apparently she's been taking out loans against her house. Did you know they're almost in foreclosure? No, I said, genuinely surprised. They always seemed to be doing fine. Well, Jessie continued, leaning against the bookshelf. According to Mom, Uncle Richard doesn't even know. Your mom's been hiding the notices and intercepting the mail? That explains the urgency, Warren muttered. The estate could solve all her financial problems. So what's your plan? Jessie asked, looking at me. You're not just going to let her get away with this, right? Absolutely not, I said firmly. But I need professional help. I know just the person, Warren said, reaching for his phone. Victoria Palmer, best estate attorney in the state. She doesn't take many clients, but she owes me a favor. An hour later, Victoria Palmer sat across from us, her sleek gray suit matching her steel gray eyes. So, she said after hearing our story, you have proof you were present during the supposed will modification, evidence of a forged signature, and witnesses who can attest to your mother's financial desperation and violent behavior. Is that correct? Yes, I nodded. Plus the nurse who was with Grandma. Good, Victoria said, making notes. Mr. Blackwell should never have accepted a document without proper witnessing and notarization, especially for an estate this size. That's a serious breach of protocol. So what do we do? I asked. First, we attend the will reading tomorrow. We don't tip our hand. Let your mother think everything's proceeding according to her plan. Then, wait, Jessie interrupted. You're just going to let her show up thinking she's won? After what she did to Lorelai? Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly. Miss Turner, revenge served cold is still revenge. Trust me, your aunt will face consequences far more severe than a moment of embarrassment would provide. I agree with Victoria, Warren said. We need to be strategic here. Fine, Jessie conceded, though clearly not happy about it. But someone should warn Uncle Richard. He has no idea what's coming. I shook my head. Not yet. If we tell Dad, he might confront Mom, and then she'll know we're on to her. Lorelai's right, Victoria said, closing her notebook. For now, we gather evidence and prepare our case. The hearing is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Be ready. The law office of Blackwell and Associates felt unusually warm as our family gathered for the reading. My mother sat beside my father, her hand clutched tightly around his, putting on a show of grieving daughter. When she saw my bruised cheek, she looked away quickly. Mr. Blackwell entered, followed by a notary and Victoria Palmer. My mother's eyes widened. What is she doing here? Mom demanded, pointing at Victoria. Miss Palmer represents Miss Lorelai Turner, Mr. Blackwell explained stiffly. Since when do you need an attorney for a simple will reading? Mom asked, turning to me, her voice sickly sweet despite the panic in her eyes. Since someone tried to change Grandma's will 3 days before she died, I replied calmly. The room fell silent. What is she talking about? Dad asked, turning to Mom. Nothing. She's just trying to cause trouble as usual, Mom replied, patting his hand. Let's proceed, Mr. Blackwell. Actually, Victoria interjected. Before we begin, I'd like to address some irregularities regarding a document courier delivered from Mrs. Helen Turner's residence on May 15th. Mom's face drained of color. This is ridiculous. You can't just come in here and make accusations. No one's made any accusations yet, Mrs. Turner, Victoria replied coolly. Helen, what's going on? Dad asked, his confusion evident. Nothing! This is all a setup. Lorelai's trying to turn everyone against me just like she did with Mother. Is that why you slapped her at dinner? Uncle Warren asked, his voice unusually hard. I was upset. She provoked me, Mom stammered. Mrs. Turner, Mr. Blackwell interrupted, looking deeply uncomfortable. Regarding the document I received, there are questions about its authenticity. What document? Dad asked. A modification to your mother-in-law's will, Victoria explained. Allegedly signed 3 days before her death, when hospital records and witness statements confirmed she was non-responsive. Mom stood up abruptly. This is absurd. Mother asked me to have those changes made. She told me privately. While I was in the room? I asked. Because I was there all day, Mom, with the nurse. You never visited. You're lying, Mom shouted, her composure cracking. You're all against me. Richard, tell them. Dad looked at her, then at me, confusion turning to suspicion. Helen, what did you do? Nothing. I did nothing wrong. She turned to Mr. Blackwell. Just read the will, the updated will. I'm afraid I can't, Mr. Blackwell replied. Given the circumstances, we'll need to present the last verified will, dated February of this year. No! Mom lunged toward his desk, but Uncle Warren caught her arm. Helen, that's enough. You don't understand, she cried, tears streaming down her face. We need that money, the house, the loans. Richard doesn't know. Know what? Dad asked, his voice hollow. Mom suddenly seemed to deflate, realizing what she'd revealed. She turned to me, her expression shifting from rage to pleading. Lorelai, honey, I'm so sorry about the other night. I was stressed. I wasn't thinking clearly. You know how much I love you. We can work this out as a family. You don't need all that money. You could help us, help your father and me. I looked at her, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time. You forged my signature. You tried to steal Grandma's inheritance. You hit me in front of everyone. And now you're sorry? I am. I truly am. Please, Lorelai. No, I said firmly. I don't accept your apology, and I'm not covering for you anymore. Mom's face contorted with rage. She lunged at me, fingernails extended toward my face. You ungrateful little... Uncle Warren caught her again, but not before she knocked over a heavy crystal paperweight that shattered against the wall. That's assault, Victoria stated calmly, already dialing on her phone. And attempted assault. And we have witnesses. 3 months later, I sat in Victoria Palmer's office, signing the final paperwork that would transfer my grandmother's estate into my name. The fraud charges against your mother have been filed, Victoria explained, sliding another document across her desk. Given the evidence, her lawyer is pushing for a plea deal. And my father? I asked quietly. Victoria's expression softened slightly. The divorce proceedings are moving forward. The financial discovery phase has revealed even more unauthorized loans and credit lines than we initially found. Uncle Warren, who had accompanied me to the meeting, shook his head. Richard had no idea the extent of it. Nearly $3 million in debt, hidden for years. Is he okay? I asked. As well as can be expected, Warren replied. He's staying with me for now. Victoria gathered the signed paperwork. The restraining order against your mother will remain in effect for at least a year. Given her behavior at the hearing, the judge wasn't inclined to be lenient. I nodded, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and relief. Has she tried to contact you again? Warren sighed. She called last week, said she wanted to apologize to you in person, that she's been seeing a therapist who suggested family reconciliation might be healing for everyone. What did you tell her? Victoria asked. The truth, that it's not my decision and that actions have consequences. The intercom on Victoria's desk buzzed. Miss Palmer, Jessie Turner is here. Send her in, Victoria replied. Jessie entered, carrying a tray of coffee cups. Thought we could all use some caffeine. How'd it go? It's done, I said. Grandma's wishes will be honored. Including the charitable foundation? Jessie asked, handing out the coffees. I nodded. 20 million to establish the Eleanor Turner Medical Research Foundation, with Warren as the executive director. And the educational trusts for all the grandchildren, Warren added. Helen's kids included. Jessie sat down beside me. Have you heard from Aunt Helen? She keeps trying, I replied. Cards, messages through Dad, even had her therapist call me directly. And? Jessie prompted. And nothing. Some things can't be forgiven, Jessie. Some lines can't be uncrossed. Warren nodded slowly. Your grandmother used to say that character is revealed in crisis. I think she'd be proud of how you've handled this, Lorelai. I just wish, I began, then stopped myself. Wish what? Victoria asked. I wish I'd seen it sooner. The manipulation, the lies. Maybe things would have been different. Or maybe they would have been worse, Warren suggested. You can't change the past, but you've secured your grandmother's legacy exactly as she wanted. Later, as Jessie and I walked to our cars, she asked the question I'd been expecting. So what will you do now? I mean, besides running the foundation with Uncle Warren? I looked up at the clear blue sky, feeling lighter than I had in months. Live my life, honor Grandma's memory, try to be the person she always believed I could be. Without Mom? Jessie asked carefully. Some people don't change, Jessie. They just find new ways to manipulate. I'm done with that chapter of my life. And if she really has changed, if someday she truly understands what she did wrong, I considered this for a moment, then she'll understand why I can't have her in my life anymore. And that will have to be enough. As we reached our cars, I turned to Jessie. What about you? Have you thought about my offer? Jessie grinned. To join the foundation? Yeah, I've thought about it. Might be nice to work with family I actually like for a change. So that's a yes? That's a, let's talk about it over dinner, she replied with a laugh. I smiled, feeling a sense of possibility I hadn't experienced in a long time. The inheritance wasn't just money. It was freedom. Freedom from manipulation, from toxic relationships, from the weight of trying to please someone who could never be satisfied. What would you do if someone who was supposed to love you unconditionally betrayed your trust in the worst possible way? Would you find the strength to walk away? Or would you keep hoping they might change? Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is knowing when to say goodbye.